like to welcome the meeting of the HR and Administration Committee. I would like to call the meeting to order and ask our secretary to call the roll to establish the quorum.
Thank you, Chair Cohen. With your permission, I'll call the roll, establish quorum. Regent Balducci.
Here.
Thank you. Regent Wright.
Here.
Thank you. And we have heard from Regent Jimenez, who will not be joining us today. Chair Cohen, you have a quorum. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In addition to the three members of our committee, those of us watching us on YouTube will note that we have a couple of our colleagues who are also with us. We have our Vice Chair, Merle Harris, and we have Kalina Sasanker from the Faculty Advisory Committee, and welcome to you too. I'll ask, all the regents will be on mute so that we can record this and the people watching can hear, and when people speak, we will unmute you. Before we begin, I would just like to say welcome to our new committee secretary and new CSCU family member, Pam Helene. Pam comes to us from Cayuga Community College in New York. She was the executive secretary to the board and also the executive assistant to the president. So Pam, we're going to give you one sentence to say something about yourself that we couldn't read in your resume.
Holy smokes. That you couldn't read in my resume.
Right.
I continue to reinvent myself and looking to ding a bigger universe and have chosen CSCU, and I can't wait to start. Thank you.
Well, welcome aboard. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
What we'll do is we will discuss the items in order of the agenda. We will then, before we take the vote, if there is a regent, that would be you, Merle, or you, Kalina, have something brief that you would like to say or ask a question, feel free to do that. And then the committee members will take action on the action items. So that said, let's move to action item 2A, the search process for the CSCU system president. The materials were distributed, so I assume everybody has them and has read them. By way of background, as you know, the board has the responsibility of choosing presidents for the institutions and also for the system. And so we are here today because of President Ojekian's upcoming departure at the end of December. And the policy before us really builds on the system that we have used for other searches for campus presidents, searches for chief executive officers at the community college, searches for regional presidents. It differs slightly in the sense that this is a search for a system leader. You'll note that we're planning on doing a national search and that we have established the same protocols that have worked at least since I've been around 9 or 10 times. There will be a board search committee appointed by our board chair. He will name the committee members. There will be a search advisory committee that will partner with the board. The search advisory committee will choose its own members in most cases, except for the external stakeholders. And the search advisory committee will select its own chair, or sometimes search advisory committees have their co-chairs, and that is up to them. We, members of the search advisory committee and the board search committee will participate together in reviewing all the resumes to select semifinalists, and also in conducting semifinalist and finalist interviews with representatives of both committees taking part. If you look at the membership of the Search Advisory Committee, it's evenly distributed between community college representatives and university representatives, because this again is a system search, not a campus search. And then there are some external stakeholders and two other people, the interim president of the state community colleges and one representative of the executive staff. So that being said, are there comments or questions either by Rich or Elise about the search process and the policy that it embodies that's for you to vote upon? Elise?
I think I know the answer to this question, but I want to make absolutely sure that this is a process that is consistent with what we've used in the past, that it will involve, different constituents from our board, from outside of the board, and from the community at large, and that students will also have, we've determined a way that students will also be involved in the process to some extent. So just...
Absolutely.
I've read a lot of things, but I just want to make, this is sort of like just putting dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's.
Absolutely. Richie?
I'm sorry. You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to piggyback on what Elise said. However, the advisory committee will be strictly that. The final decision will be up to the board committee.
Yeah, that,
I wasn't
that-
sure.
That's correct, Rich. That's the way it's always been. Statutorily, the board is responsible for choosing the leaders, not only of the institutions, but also of the system. But as you know, and we all know from having participated in other searches, the partnership between the board search committee and the search advisory committee has always been a strong one. And everybody's reading the resumes. Everybody is involved in choosing the semifinalists and also the finalists. So, albeit the board will eventually vote on the candidate with input from the search advisory committee after that whole process plays out, we'll hear from the co-chairs or chair of the search advisory committee on their observations of what the semifinalists were like and what the finalists were like. And then the board will, yes, make the decision.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kalina or Merle?
I guess, thank you for unmuting me. I've been involved in this process since the board was first conceived by legislation. And the process has worked very, very well. It has been collaborative. I have been amazed on how close the advisory committee has always been to the board's decisions. And I even have heard more than once members or the chairs of the advisory committee stating that they really didn't think it was going to work that as well as it did, and they were absolutely amazed at the way there was a partnership and collaboration all the way through. And I am sure that that will happen again this time. And this is very close. There are some minor changes, but this is very close to what we've done from the first system-wide search to all of the searches for presidents or CEOs. So I commend you for bringing this forward in this fashion, and I know, I'm very confident that it will be a very successful search.
Thank you. Kalina?
No, she's on mute.
Okay, now she's good.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kalina. Now, did I lose her? We lost her?
Yep, she did. She had, yes, I'm not sure where she went, but she looked like she was all set. I think that's what she was trying to tell us and may have disconnected instead.
Oh, okay. So in that case, could I have a motion to adopt the policy creating the search process for a CSCU system president?
So moved.
Moved by Elise, second by Rich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. We don't even have to ask if there are any abstentions or no votes. So let's move now to action item 2B, the CSCU President Contract Extension. And with this comes our thanks to Ernestine and to Andy for getting this together for us. By way of background, as everybody knows, Marco Jakin, who's been our president since 2015, just about 5 years, has indicated his intention to retire at the end of this calendar year. What the action item envisions is that we enter into a contract with Mark, who actually his contract ran out September 1st, or August 31st. I don't know how Ernestine figures that out. We enter into a contract with him until the end of the year when he is leaving us. As you'll note in the materials, the terms and conditions of the contract, albeit it's a new document, have not changed either in terms of the compensation or the responsibilities. And the resolution that's before us essentially says that. I made a little proofreading error when I did this, and so with your indulgence, if you looked at the resolution, I would ask for somebody to make a friendly amendment that's so that it would say resolved, the board chairman, Matt Fleury, is authorized to execute an employment agreement attached here to and made a part thereof between the Board of Regents for Higher Ed and Marco Jakin, ending December 31st, 2020, because we did submit in the materials the actual employment agreement. So we want to make it clear in the resolution that it is attached.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so moved by Lee, second by Rich, and everybody's in favor of that. So are there any comments about the, or questions about what we're doing here? If not, could we have a?
I have
Yeah, go ahead.
just a question. Yeah, this may be a separate conversation, but I think we talked about it at a previous meeting. Will Mark be available after the end of his contract if we need to consult with him on anything?
He has, at least he has indicated that he will be available for consults after he's gone. He's probably going to get a new phone number.
Yeah, remotely, but I don't know if we can do something that's more formal about that. I'm just throwing out a suggestion.
Well, my understanding was that at this point, we needed to do this
Okay.
to just put a contract in place. But I think your point is well taken, and we need to talk to, and this is sort of the royal we, we'll figure out who that is, but talk to Matt and also to Mark to see if anything else any other resolution needs to be brought forward. But at this point, we need to put this
We need to do
employment
this.
agreement in place.
Okay.
Rich, you're good? Merle, you're
Yes,
good?
yeah, so that's good. Just one little caveat, question that Elise raised. Mark did indicate, however, he would probably not be available in person after the end of the year, that it would always be, and I could understand that, whether it be via computer or satellite or God knows telephone, whatever it might be. But he did indicate, just for conversation, just to clear up the conversation, I do remember indicating that. Am I correct on that, Dallas?
Yes, yes, yes. Sorry, I thought I was muted.
Okay, so Pam, do we have a motion to adopt this resolution as amended?
Oh, wait, Pam's muted. Hold on, Pam. Sorry, Pam, you were muted.
I'm sorry. We had an amendment.
Okay, but now we need a
We need a new motion.
A new motion
We need
to
a new
adopt
motion
the
to adopt it as
resolution
amended.
And Elise is making that motion and Richie seconding it. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark will be happy that he now can get paid. The final item on our agenda is an update on Title IX. And Angelo Simone, who has done an unbelievable amount of work over the shortest amount of time possible to bring the board in compliance with new federal regulations on Title IX and sexual misconduct, sexual harassment claims and investigations, is with us. And Angela's our system Title IX coordinator, I believe. And he will give us an update. You might remember that at the last board meeting, we did have a brief report explaining the changes that the federal government made to the Title IX regulations, which required us to do new things. I would also say that the federal government did it and said in June, I think, okay, so this is great. Have it ready by August 14th. No conversations about, whether people are working remotely, whether people are working, how you're going to get this together. But Angelo figured it all out. So Angelo, it's all yours, and thank you. Oh, and I should say, I see that Alice is sharing Angelo's report on the screen. This report will be distributed to regions and will also be attached to the minutes for everybody's edification. Go ahead,
Great.
Angelo.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for the credit, but it wasn't just me. It was Andy and his team, and Ernestine did a tremendous amount of work getting this all together in the short time period. So thank you to both of them and their teams as well.
I'm glad you said that because I'm probably in Dutch with them already now because I didn't say that.
So the full PowerPoint is available and will be made available to the committee and attached to the minutes, but just a high-level overview on a couple of slides that I thought would be pertinent and important to share in terms of overall compliance measures, if you want to skip to that, Alice. So we are in compliance as of the 14th, August 2020, as it relates to the new federal regulations. As we know that this was a heavy lift with people working in a remote environment, with the short turnaround time from May until August to get into compliance, especially with a lot of our faculty and staff, taking time off or not being on contract. We were able to get the bus moving in the right direction and continue to do that. The board had a couple of questions that I wanted to make sure were answered. All of our institutions have updated their websites with the Title IX contact information, with the newly revised policies and procedures. They've communicated with their students so that the students know how to make reports, how to file complaints, and what the timelines and what the compliance measures should look like. We wanted to make sure that the information was easy to find, especially in light of these changes. And all of our schools have done a good job making sure that that occurred. We also entered into a contract with the State University of New York, SCI, which stands for Student Conduct Institute. Our system, for the first time since I've worked here since 2006, is using one vendor for training of Title IX matters. So this is a one-stop shop as it relates to Title IX compliance for participants in the process, whether it be the Title IX coordinator, like someone like me, the deputy Title IX coordinators, our investigators, our adjudicators, our support people. There are training modules for all these different groups of people that the campuses will be using to ensure compliance with meeting the training requirements across the system. And it does something further. It allows us to have access to subject matter experts, technical assistants, and make sure that the experience at Tunxus is no different than the experience at Nantucket, is no different than Southern or Western. It brings all of our institutions on a level playing field, which I'm happy about in terms of continuity of operations and fairness and equity at at each of the processes. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is, the community colleges and state universities have different levels of resources. All 17 schools, including Charter Oak, have memorandums of understanding, MOUs, with the local sexual violence agency in their geographic location. So in the event that a college or university needs to provide a student with additional support contacts, there is already an established relationship in that geographic area where a student can go 24/7, 365 to get assistance or help with whatever issue that they might be dealing with as it relates to Title IX. The other question that came up was Title IX officer or Title IX coordinator key responsibilities. Here are a couple of high-level bullet points in terms of the major responsibilities. Obviously, there are many more, and I included those in the full version of the PowerPoint. But they're really committed to, in terms of the role in general, conducting educational programs. Oops, my watch is talking to me. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Weird. And they're making sure that the students' rights are upheld in the Title IX process. They're overseeing, coordinating, and ensuring different reports relating to investigations and handling complaints, that the addressing of the complaints are timely, appropriate, that they follow the policies and the procedures that are set forth by the board. And they're making sure they're looking at the high-level campus view. They're making sure that there's not habitual issues going on in the campus that are not being addressed according to our policies and procedures, and looking for those anomalies and making sure that they're addressed appropriately. Some other things that they're responsible for in terms of the deputy, which all of our campuses have, they're doing the investigations, they're doing the adjudications, they're doing the appeals, they're providing the academic adjustments to students in the classroom. So if a student is assaulted and needs classroom adjustments, maybe they can't attend that same class because the accused student is in that same class, they're making adjustments that will meet the student on a one-to-one basis based on whatever their personal circumstances are. They're also serving as a connector to the different resources on campus, whether it's the Women's Center, the Student Affairs Office, or counseling, which is also very important. The question about CSU Structure. CSU Structure came up. As you know, the universities have a little bit of a different structure as it relates to the Title IX process than the community colleges. But all of our universities have a Title IX coordinator. They have an Office of Diversity and Equity with support staff. They're responsible for their campus training and reporting on all matters relating to Title IX. And they make sure that the deputies, whether they have them on the campus or not, those people doing the investigation, the adjudications, and the appeals are trained and are held accountable for meeting those training guidelines. The other thing that was brought up at this last meeting that was a suggestion of the board was that we wanted to edit the policy, amend the policy to make sure that the Title IX coordinator was meeting with the university president on a regular basis to talk about Title IX cases, to make sure that there was a checks and balances. And Ernestine and I did add that to the policy, and that has been made widely available. The other thing that came up was the audit, review and audit. We wanted to make sure that all of our campuses are being reviewed to make sure that the statistics that are being reported are accurate and relevant, and we're following up on any issues that might be occurring locally. So in addition to the 10A-55M sexual misconduct report that we provide each October to the legislature for all 17 schools, in addition to the university presidents meeting with the Title IX coordinator, I'll be reviewing all the statistics and the data with Ernestine, and we're making sure that there's any issues that need to be addressed, that they're done so in a timely fashion, and to make sure that we're in full compliance. Dissemination of the policy. Students, faculty, and staff were made aware of it. Know that was a request in our last meeting. The other thing that came up as well as informal resolution. We wanted to make sure that regardless of whether or not a student met the definition of a Title IX case post 814, that they had an ability to go through the student conduct process and get resources and assistance and have their case adjudicated and investigated. So we do have that ability to handle that case via informal resolution process, even if their case does not meet the traditional or the new definition of the severe and pervasive of a reasonable person of the Title IX process. So regardless of whether or not a complaint rises to a true Title IX case, it will still be handled on the university or college campus. And that was important for us because we wanted to make sure that all of our students had access to resources and the ability to file a report in the event that that was needed. Training is also pretty important as it relates for students, faculty, and staff. A grant through the Office of Violence Against Women, which is through the Department of Justice. All of our students across the system are trained using Not Anymore, which is an online prevention program that relates to Title IX and sexual violence and knowing what the signs and how to report and who the Title IX coordinator is. It's interactive, it's web-based, there's vignettes and videos and other types of scenarios, but also at the end of each of the training opportunities, it gives the student the contact information for the local university or college campus on who they can contact if they need help. Other topics are bystander intervention, dating and domestic violence, and sexual assault and stalking. And this program covers that, and it allows us to train students annually across the entire system using that program. Faculty and staff are equally important. You know, they've been to trainings and they have access to trainings, and this includes our Title IX folks and the people that support it in terms of trauma on survivors of sexual violence, stalking, domestic violence, how to interview students that are going through the disciplinary process if it relates to a Title IX matter, you know, legal response to intimate partner violence, and, you know, balancing victims' rights with institutional responsibility. So there's a myriad of topics that this grant allows us to cover across the 17 schools that really helps us on the soft side of things in terms of the training and the awareness and the response on the campuses. And we have a grant project director that does a great job, you know, making sure that those trainings are available for our students, faculty, and staff. I think that's the high level presentation. I don't know if there was any questions that I could answer or any further clarification that might be needed.
Any regions? Okay, somebody's got feedback.
Hold on.
It's not rural.
That's everybody.
Okay, questions, comments? Everybody
Only comment
good?
I want to make is that under any circumstances, you did a remarkable job. You really did, pulling everything together this quickly with, from what I understand, very little guidance or direction. But should be all, I think I speak for the entire board. We're very appreciative of what you did, but you should be very proud of yourselves for what you did.
Oh, I couldn't
Thank you.
agree more. And even though I was bad and I forgot to acknowledge the work of Andy and Ernestine, I wanted to point out that, as Ernestine explained to me once, the new regulations came, it was like 2,000 pages or something. And they said, here, good luck. I think the other thing that we want to note, and as you could see, it's all incorporated in our document, is that when the ASA committee and the HR committee met jointly to discuss this, the board is speaking with one voice. Sexual harassment under no circumstances is to be tolerated, regardless of what the definitions are or any other problems. And I feel really confident that under the protocols that have been developed, that we are off to a terrific start. I'm sure there will be experiences along the way that might require tweaking, but it's really comforting to know that as school begins, this is in place in all 17 of our institutions, diverse as they are. And we thank you for that. Anybody else? Merle?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm going to make sure that all the members of the ASA committee read this Angela's work, Angela's PowerPoint, because I think it is important in that it affects students on our campuses, and that's part of our responsibility. So I will make sure that that happens, and I appreciate you putting this together in a format that's easy to read, and I'm sure the board members who have not seen it up to now will appreciate that as well.
Yeah, and we will at the board meeting, when we give committee reports, we will not only acknowledge the work of the big three, but we will disseminate the document so that it's front and center in people's thinking about how this system has responded in short order to a serious issue that affects students and employees. So thank you again very much. I know this is going to break your heart, but there being no further business, could we have a motion to adjourn? Elise says yes, and Richie says second. So all in favor? Aye. No one is opposed. And thank you to everybody for being with us and for our friends on the streaming. And have a good day. The meeting is adjourned.
All right. Thanks, Naomi. Bye.
Same.